Yeah, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, it is Wednesday, baby. It's the best day of the week. And as always, I'm excited to be able to hang out with you here on Hump Day, right? Doesn't matter how the week started. Here we are in the middle of it, and we're going to work together to get over the hump. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you this morning and sharing some ideas uh, on this particular subject, man. And so I really want to see. I'm encouraging all of you to join in, right? And I want to hear what you have to say on this particular subject. And if for some reason you missed the live feed, hey, let's continue the conversation afterwards, right? Feel free to chime in. I have my friend here just says LinkedIn user. But thank you for sharing there. You say that unfortunately there are many unethical leaders, and I agree with you. And so the question this morning, man, that's burning me, and I really want to hear your thoughts on is: can bad people be good leaders? Can bad people be good leaders? Now, before I tell you what I think, let's look on some definitions, right? I want to share some definitions with you. We're going to define, leadership. We're going to define good. We're going to define bad, and then let's figure out how this thing shakes out, right? So, leadership. What is leadership? Who is a leader? Well, there are two elements to leadership. It involves one. Being able to get people to work together. And then the second element would be to get them to work towards a common purpose, right? So you're getting people to work together on a common purpose. In other words, you're influencing them. And that's what John Maxwell chooses to define leadership as influence. And so from that perspective, obviously, all of us are leaders in our own right, because every single day we are influencing another person. But what is influence? Let's talk about that for a minute. Well, according to the dictionary, influence is a capacity to be a compelling force or to produce effects on the actions, behaviors, opinions of others, right? So if you are in a leadership position, you're in a position of influence. In other words, you have the capacity or the power to be a compelling force to produce a certain effect on, the actions, behavior, the opinions, and dare I say, the beliefs of others as well, right? Now, let's define bad and good. Bad, a dictionary says you could say it's having a wicked or evil character. Sounds almost like a villain in a movie. Okay, so let's park that definition aside just for a minute, and then let's look on another definition. Bad being morally reprehensible, right? Morally reprehensible. Good means morally excellent, virtuous, righteous, pious. So the challenge, I think, with us when we think of leadership is that we tend to think of it or look at it through the prism of through a moral prism, right? We anticipate that our leaders are going to be good, upstanding people, right? Honest and ethical and empathetic, and so on and so forth, right? But what if they weren't, right? Barbara Kellerman, she is a leadership expert. She says, to suggest that good leaders are always good people is to be blind to the human condition, right? To think that, or to suggest that good leaders are always good people is to be blind by the human condition. And I think what she's saying is that, look, good and evil runs through all of us, right? Every single one of us have a good side and a dark side, right? But most of us choose to conduct ourselves in a morally upright, ethical, honest way. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. I'm not suggesting that, but that's how most of us choose to conduct ourselves. But we do have a side of us, and if you look around in society, you'll see that, right? There are those people who will stay on the right side of the law, and then there are others who just don't, no matter what, right? So if that is the case, the question is, where do our leaders come from? Where do our leaders come from? Are they dropped in from Mars or somewhere, Jupiter, wherever? No, they come from right among us, right from us. So our leaders reflect who we are. They're reflective of who we are, and we see ourselves in them. I mean, whether you want to accept that or not, I think that is so. There's not every single one of us, obviously, I'm speaking in general terms, but we see ourselves in them and they see ourselves in us. They're reflective of us and we reflect them. And so if there are segments of our society that are, I'm going to use the word virtuous, or honest, right? Seek to be honest and ethical and so on. You're going to have leaders who are honest and ethical and etc. If there are segments of our society that are not so honest, right? Very dishonest. Getting a call. Then you're going to have those. When I was doing my basic officer training on the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, studying society and politics and so on, they said, hey, whatever is in society, they said the army recruits from society. So whatever you find in society, you're going to find in the army. And that is true, obviously, with our leadership at every single level. Whatever you find out in society, whatever you find among us, Alison, yes, the yin and yang, you're going to find among our leaders as well, right? So again, I think the challenge is that we when we think of leadership, we look at it through this moral prism of ethics and integrity and compassion and empathy, right? We're expecting the leader to be someone who's going to inspire us and lift us up, and challenge us to work towards worthwhile goals. And that's not too much to expect. And so I think, there are some people who go, there's no way a bad person can be a good leader. And I think it's because they're looking at it through the moral prism. So let's if the dictionary says, good is defined as morally excellent. Let's look at a different definition of good, because if you say, Devon is a good athlete or a good speaker, you're not trying to say that I'm a morally excellent speaker, athlete. She is a good doctor. He is a good dentist or a good lawyer, or she is a good mother or whatever. You're not looking at this through a moral prism. You're looking at this through skills, through competence, through capability. So you could define good as in terms of competence or skill. All right. So a leader is skilled, a leader is competent, a leader is effective. Can a bad person in a leadership position be skilled, be competent, be effective? My argument would be yes, absolutely. And I think you just have to, again, Alison is talking about her personal life and running something such as a business, for example. Being self-employed sometimes has to be different. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, when you look at the examples that we have around the world of different leaders, and we're not talking about leadership styles now. We're talking about the character of the person. Is this a good or a bad person? In this case, I'm asking, can a bad person be a good leader? So we're talking about the character of the person and their effectiveness as a leader, their skill, their ability to bring people together and have them work towards a common goal. That's very different from from bringing people together to work towards aspirational goals. I'm not asking anything about that. I would say that's a different conversation. So you could look at Mother Teresa, who everybody accepts as a good person, right? She's a saint, for crying out loud, right? She's an awesome person. She was a good leader. On the other end of the spectrum, Hitler. Some would say is a bad leader. I would say he was a bad person, but he was a good leader. He was able to bring people together to work towards a common goal, and he was fairly successful at it. I mean, unfortunately for him, or fortunately for us, the same qualities that contributed to his ascent contributed to his demise, and I'll get into that in a minute, right? So yeah, Maxine is looking at leadership in terms of steward resources, relative experience, give support as guidance among team members. Yes, I agree. And so a person, someone who is of good character, is quite capable of that. And I would argue that someone who is of questionable character is very capable of that as well. And we just use two examples here of Mother Teresa and Hitler, two divergent different persons who were able to wield tremendous influence on others. So if you think about the world, I was doing some reading, and they say that currently there are 50 countries in the world that are headed up by dictators. That's more than a quarter of the number of nations, of all nations in the world. 50 of them. And then, there might be another 25% of countries that are led by people that we would deem as unethical, dishonest, unstable, some of them incompetent. But I think for my purposes, that when I say good, I'm thinking about someone who is, by and large, competent, and bad, by and large, unethical and dishonest. So the question is, if you have this number of people out there who are, by and large, dishonest, unethical, and for the most part, competent, But when we think of leadership, we're thinking about people who are honest and compassionate and so on. Why are there so many? Why aren't they thrown out of office, or why aren't there more uprisings against these leaders? You know, that, and any ideas on that? Some of the comments was, I'm sorry guys, I don't know why this thing works this way. Apparently some of the comments aren't coming through. But yeah, if we want our leaders to be people of honesty and integrity and be ethical, as well as competent, but we tend to look at our leaders through the prism of morality, right? The ethics and so on. Why are there so many unethical, dishonest dictators around? And it has to do with us. Again, our leaders come from among us and they reflect who we are. As Allison says, the yin and the yang. And I think there are a number of reasons for that. I want to throw out about three of them. One is that I think we have a preference for strong man leaders, I guess, is it? Because I think there's a big difference between being a strong leader and being a strong arm leader, as it were, right? Most of us, we want our leaders to be strong and be confident. Unfortunately, we confuse arrogance and narcissism for strength. We want our leaders to be strong, and I wonder if that is the reason why you don't have more women leading countries, for example. Is it because we generally see women as weaker? Why we don't have more women leading countries, more women leading companies, in fact, right? So we want our leaders to be strong and confident. And when we see a guy who stands up and is full of it, is arrogant and narcissistic and misogynist sometimes, we think, he is a strong leader. He says it like it is. He calls it like it is. But then they turn out in the end to be the worst leaders ever, right? Because their narcissism and their arrogance becomes their downfall. And I, mentioned Hitler earlier, and I said that the same qualities that allowed him to ascend, right? He ended up World War I as a corporal in the army, and by the time World War II came around, he was leading a country, right? Again, he projected a strong persona, and did he get an entire country basically to follow him? Absolutely. But it was because of that same arrogance and narcissism why he ended up losing the war, because he made decisions that cost them militarily dearly. So yeah, we have this desire for strong arm leaders, strong man or strong arm leaders. All right. So now the second thing I think is that we equate effectiveness with being a good leader. We equate the fact that you are competent, you're able to deliver on your promises, the promises that you make. For the most part, obviously not everybody delivers 100%, but you're able to deliver for the most part on the promises that you make. And we go, oh yeah, he's a good leader. He's a good leader from the perspective that he's competent or she's competent, not a good leader from the perspective that the person is not, in this case, morally upstanding, morally excellent. The first definition that we had of good. Now, and we also bask in the leader's power by association. A while back I was interviewing my friend Todd Dewitt. Big shout out to you, Todd, on my podcast, Social Scientist. And I asked him, I'm like, there are so many strong arm leaders around, and there's absolutely no way these people can be in power without the support of others, right? A leader at any level really earns their stripe because they're able to produce results through others, right? They can't do it by themselves. Right? They're leaders. You need people behind you, following you. And I'm like, so why is it that there's so many people who still support these strong arm leaders, right? All of those dictators around the world, all of those unethical, dishonest people that are still in power. And he says, people want to feel like they're part of a tribe. People want to be part of a group. They want to feel like they belong, and that's part of the challenge. If you can look back at history and wonder, but you don't even have to look all that far back. You just look at our current day situation, and you see, tremendous example of that. So we all want to be on the winning side, as it were, right? And so if we think that the bad person is winning, we're going to support them, right? Because we'll be able to get what we want from them. And so we support them, we'll become, bad followers as well. We'll become henchmen, so that they can continue to have their power, abuse their power. And as long as we are benefiting from that bad person in power, delivering on the promises that may not be things that are aspirational, things that would lift everyone up, but benefit a few to the detriment of others, then it's, as long as we are benefiting from it, or the henchmen are benefiting from it, they are good. So so my conclusion is, and I think I said it earlier, bad people can be good leaders. But I want to qualify how I define good. Good does not mean morally excellent. Good doesn't mean ethical. Good does not mean honest. Bad people with decrepit character, can be very effective, can be quite competent at bringing people together and getting them to go pursue goals that are not morally uplifting, are detriment to many. It goes against the common decency. But they are very effective. They are very effective because, again, a leader can only produce results through the efforts of others, and that is what makes them a good leader, not a good person. And so if you are a good person, if you're a person of ethics, if you have compassion, if you can empathize with another person, are you walking a mile in their shoes, you will not support such a leader, right? That's a bottom line. You won't, but doesn't mean that they would not be effective at what they do and sitting in their position. So those are the thoughts I had, man. Leon, it's great to see you, man. Thank you for joining. Those are the thoughts I had. I thank you, Maxie and Allison, Leon, for chiming in. My LinkedIn user, who will remain nameless, I'm not sure who it is. Thank you guys over there on IG as well for joining in. I'm going to encourage you to continue the conversation. Those of you who would have been watching the recording of this, I'm curious to hear what you think. Can a bad person be a good leader? Until we connect next time, stay strong, stay healthy, continue to pursue your highest ideals. I think that's really one of the things that makes life worthwhile, right? The fact that you're pursuing your highest ideals, you're better angels as opposed to the darker side that all of us have. All right. So until I see you next week. By the way, I encourage you to jump over on YouTube, youtube.com/keeponpushing-always. Subscribe to my channel there, Keep On Pushing TV. We share ideas and insights from some successful people from many walks of life that I think you will find valuable. So keep on pushing always on YouTube. Until we connect next time, yeah, man, keep on pushing.